morning. We will discuss today one case study on multiple linear regression. Let us see this case study first. Today's discussion will be on the case description, what are the variables and how we have measured the variables, the sample collected, examination of the sample data, model and results, model adequacy tests, model diagnostics, followed by summary. The study was conducted in a home gear manufacturing plant of India. Manufacturing process comprises heating of ingots in crucible furnace, casting of molten metal in centrifugal casting machine, gear cutting in a hobbing machine. The purpose of this case study is to model the relationships of worm wheel quality with hobbing process variables. Now, see the schematic diagram of the entire process. Here what we are saying, this is the hobbing machine, that worm wheel rims are the input to this machine. This machine makes the or cuts the gear teeth, and the worm gear from the gear teeth point of view, backlash and contact are the two important quality variables, and the worm wheel which is input to the hobbing machine. Here the input worm wheel quality is measured through hardness, copper percentage, silicon percentage, nickel percentage and phosphorus percentage. So, what I mean to say that worm wheel as an input to this hobbing machine has certain quality features. These are known as input quality, and these input quality variables are measured through hardness, copper, silicon, nickel, phosphorus with appropriate units of measurement. Now, this hobbing machine is basically, as I told you, that this will cut the gear teeth. So, it has certain process parameters which are given here: speed in RPM, feed millimeter per revolution, depth of cut in millimeter. These are the variables which can be controlled by the operators. Now, there are noise variable, for example, humidity percentage and also ambient temperature, that could be noise variable. So, here our sole interest is to use multiple linear regression to show that multiple linear regression is applicable and it will give us some benefit in analyzing the relationship between the worm gear quality variable like backlash, like contact percentage, with the controllable process variables like speed, feed, depth of cut, and noise variable like humidity, and the worm wheel rim quality variables, which worm wheel is the input to this machine. So, essentially what we want to do, we want to say that backlash, this can be function of that input quality, can be process controllable variables, and process noise variables. Process noise variables. And this function, we are saying it is a linear function. Linear function. So, we definitely test the linearity as well as other assumptions related to MLR, that is multiple linear regression. multiple linear regression, and we want to see that whether we will be able to transform this hobbing process where the quality variable we are at present we are considering only backlash, although contact is another quality variables which output from the hobbing process, controllable and uncontrollable variables are there. So, can this process be represented in terms of an equation? Y is function of x. Okay. So, that is our sole purpose. So, in order to do so, let us see that the characteristics of the variables which is governing the total hobbing process and their specifications what is given by the customers. So, hobbing process is customer to the preceding process. Here it is basically centrifugal casting. Centrifugal casting is one process which basically produces that worm wheel rim, and depending on the process conditions and input to this centrifugal casting process, the quality of worm wheel will be determined. So, here hobbing is customer to casting process. Okay. Now, after hobbing the worm gear is formed. This worm gear is sold to different customers, end users. Now, the end users they give certain specification related to backlash, related to contact percentage. These two are the quality characteristics of the worm gear from end user's point of view. Similarly, when the hobbing is accepting the worm wheel rim from the centrifugal casting, so there is also hobbing is also given certain specification to the quality variables related to worm wheel rim which is produced by the casting process. In addition, what is required? The operator here he will control the process variable within certain range. So, what do I mean? I mean that the output of worm wheel these are known as quality variables here. These variables have certain specifications which are determined by the basically end users, which are given by the end users, not in that precise that numerical form, but end users customers requirement converted to specification here. Now, similarly, in order to achieve the or produce the worm gear within the specifications, you are also specifying certain range for this process variables, and hobbing as a customer from the centrifugal casting process point of view, hobbing is also specifying certain ranges for variables related to worm wheel quality. Okay. So, this is what is given here, that hardness, suppose input is worm wheel rim, hardness measured is Brenner's hardness number. So, that should be greater than 90. Copper is a chemical composition, that percentage should be 87.22 to 88.72, within this range must be there. Silicon similarly 9.7 to 10.75, nickel, phosphorus should be less than 0.03%, all are percent figure. So, this is what hobbing section requires from casting, centrifugal casting section in terms of worm wheel rim quality. And output quality, if you see here, that backlash 1.17 to 1.68 millimeter and contact 30 to 40% contact. This is given by the end users, that means the who are purchasing the ohm gear. So, in between what happen, the process controllable variable by speed, feed, depth of cut, these are the specification 5 to 10 rpm, 1.1 to 1.2 millimeter per revolution, 0.25 to 2 millimeter. This is what is the process variable range determined by the engineers there. And the plant is operating under humidity condition 65 to 95%, that is throughout the year. So, now this humidity is such a thing, it cannot be controlled because it is weather condition. So, this is, that is why this is termed as noise. So, you have input quality, you have process variables, you have noise variables, and you require to have certain output quality. So, can there be relationship between output quality to input quality, process variables or process conditions, and noise present while producing the ohm gear. Okay. So, this is our sole purpose for modeling the total system, and there are many techniques available to model, but here we will use multiple linear regression. Okay. So, now in order to do so, what will be the next step? Your next step will be data collection, means you must know that what is the manufacturing system here, that is the hobbing process we have given here, and you have to collect data. The hobbing process is totally characterized by their with their specification here in this figure, clearly it is given. Okay. So, 100 conforming observations over 52 months were collected from this plant. So, that means what is our n sample size? N equal to 100. How many, what is the period of collection? 52 months period of collections. So, during 52 months the production unit produces certain ohm gears, certain number of ohm gears, out of which some are rejected or that goes to reworks, and some are accepted. Those are rejected, that is known as non-conforming, and those accepted, these are known as conforming. So, these conforming items are considered, conforming observations are considered. So, 100 conforming observations were considered. Okay. So, why 100 conforming one is considered? Because we want to model a regression or frame a regression model in such a manner that it will basically talk about the general behavior of the process. You are getting me? Suppose in case we have two variables, suppose y vis-a-vis x, and this is my data set collected, and the scatter plot is showing like this, some data point is here. So, it is outlier, and you will find out it will be most likely non-conforming. So, we do not want this type of observations in the model fitting. So, we will be considering only the general mass here. Here from customer's point of view, all conforming products are considered, correct. So, this is our data. When you collect data from case study point of view, immediately you have to find out the descriptive statistics. By descriptive statistics, when you have continuous data, we talk about mean and standard deviation. This will give you much idea about the behavior of the process. Getting me? Now, see, if I see the 100 that whim that means wheel rim or wheel rim that is considered. So, here the hardness, the mean value is 108.85, standard deviation is 2.06. Copper mean value is 88.05, standard deviation is 0.29. Silicon 10.32, 0.25. Nickel 1.50 and standard deviation is 0.01. Phosphorus 0.014 and that standard deviation is very less. So, similarly, if you see the backlash, that is 1.44 is the mean and 0.09 is the standard deviation, contact 35.29 degree, that we are talking about, this is in terms of percentage and 2.59 is the standard deviation. And similarly, humidity all over the year, it is 80.38, that is the mean value, and 5.87 is the standard deviation. And here the standard deviations are 8.21, 1.42 standard deviation, 8.2 is the mean value for speed, similarly feed, and similarly depth of cut. If you assume that the process is multivariate normal, then what will happen? The individual variables will be univariate normal. So, under such conditions, for everywhere you can find out what is the mean value, and then as you know the standard deviations, you will have a distribution like this. For example, if I consider hardness, so hardness, the data mean is 108.85 and this side this sigma cap, that is 2.06. Now, what is the specification given for hardness? That it should be greater than 90. Okay, if it is 100, it may be 90 will be somewhere here. 90 will be somewhere here. Now, we have to see that what is this percentage coming here. So, this is the first level of work you have to do, okay, before fitting into the this. But as I told you that any 100 non-conforming products are considered, so it indicates that it does not indicate that this one, the hardness is not less than 90, because this conforming or non-conforming, these are basically related to the backlash. The worm wheel quality, they are related to worm wheel quality. So, you will be having a idea with the mean and standard deviation and the this one, what is this, I said the normal distribution. Okay, this is the first level. So, MLR talks about that one of the assumption is multivariate normality. So, we will assume that the backlash or contact they will definitely be univariate normality. In addition, what we have assumed that even in the process variables, they also behave like a coming from a normal distribution or normal population, and that is also we are considering, although in multiplication that we are not interested in the x distribution, we are rather interested in the y distribution, because error will capture the y's part and x will be treated as the fixed values, different fixed values. Okay. So, next step is, all of you know that MLR, that certain assumptions, what are those assumptions must be followed? For assumptions will be, one will be linearity, second one will be homoscedasticity, third one will be uncorrelated error terms, and fourth one will be what we have seen, that errors are independent identically distributed and error follows basically normal, errors will be normally distributed also. that is why normality. Okay. So, we should not wait for model fit and then get the your error value and then you test the normality, that we will do definitely when we fit the model. But here before that, let us see from the data, raw data collected, will we get any kind of information which will help us to judge about the assumptions of the model. For example, if you see, one of the thing is the linearity with respect to the y variable. If we consider y is backlash here, although y can be contact, but first we will consider y is backlash, then backlash versus copper, you see it is almost haphazard random relationship. Perhaps that copper percentage is not contributing, perhaps. Similarly, if you see silicon, if you see nickel, phosphorus and hardness, it is very difficult to say there is relationship, but it is also not true that there is no linear relationship. Okay. So, if you see the second plot where we are talking about backlash versus speed, it is continuously decreased backlash with respect to increase in speed. You see, this way it is coming. Similarly, if you see feed, it is difficult to tell, but the variability here is more, here is less, but not clear that whether there is any decrease or increase relationships. With increase in speed, backlash will decrease or increase, that type of relation is not there. But in case of depth of cut, there is clear cut increase in relationship, but in case of humidity again it is random, very difficult. So, first is, that means what you require? You require to see the scatter plot, then you will find out certain relationship, but these are subjective. Then you go for correlation matrix, So, correlation matrix we have computed here, and the correlation matrix is shown like this. So, backlash vis-a-vis speed, feed, depth of cut, humidity, these are process related variables. Copper, silicon, nickel, phosphorus and hardness, these are input quality variable. Now, if you see backlash vis-a-vis all those input, that independent variables what we are considering in this case, you see that backlash versus speed there is negative correlation and which is significant. Similarly, backlash versus depth of cut there is positive correlation which is also significant. Backlash versus nickel there is negative correlation and significant correlation, and backlash versus hardness this negative but significant correlation. So, this correlation coefficient will give you certain idea that whether these variables, the independent variables, so called independent variables in the model, they are contributing to the dependent variable backlash or not. In regression, dependent and independent side will be there. So, in this case we are talking about one dependent variable, that is backlash, and several independent variables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 independent variables. Okay. From correlation matrix, another important aspects you are finding out that the independent variables are also not perfectly independent, because there are some correlations between the independent variables which are also significant. For example, speed versus your depth of cut, there is negative significant correlation. Similarly, speed versus nickel positive significant correlation. Humidities vis-a-vis silicon there is negative correlation, and copper vis-a-vis silicon there is negative significant correlation. Similarly, copper vis-a-vis hardness this correlation is there. So, we can say that there are certain correlations amongst the independent variable, but there are many other coefficients, correlation coefficients which are not significant. So, we cannot say 100% that these variables are independent in that sense from correlation structure point of view, but what we can say that we can proceed for regression, because this type of correlated structure in the independent variables, if it is large enough, then it will distort, and it will be also known from the diagnostics, from variance that is inflation factor, variance inflation factor and other things are there, we will check. At this point in time, what I mean to say, yes, there are certain independent variables which are basically contributing towards backlash, that is the dependent variable. So, our aim is we can go for multiple regression, correct. So, what we have tested then? We have tested that linear relationship is there, and we can go for multiple linear regression, but we also want to test from the raw data, we want to examine that the normality of the y variable. So, if you know how to go for normality, there are different approaches, PP plot, that is probability plot, you can see the histogram, you can go for quantile plot. So, there are many plots. So, now you see this PP plot here. If you see the histogram of backlash, it is not perfectly normal. You cannot say this is the 100% normal, but definitely there are little departure from normality, and if we see the probability plot also, there are certain points out of the confidence band. So, it is not 100% normal, but the departure also not that much that we should be worried at this point in time. We can think for those departures after model diagnostics. Then you have to fit the model. Okay. So, this is our regression fit, our regression equation, and I am sure that you can recollect that what is the formula we have used to calculate beta. Beta cap is x transpose x inverse x transpose y. This is the regression equation we have used, and using this where x is your design matrix 1 1 1 2 1, and like this your x 1 1 x 2 1, then x n 1, similarly x 1 p x 2 p, like this x n p. Okay. And y is here one variable only. So, y1 y2 dot 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 yn, and your regression equation is y is x beta plus epsilon, y is n cross 1, x is basically n into p plus 1. So, beta definitely will be p plus 1 cross 1, and epsilon will be n cross 1. So, beta, our beta is beta 0, beta 1 to beta p. In this case, we have p equal to 9. So, your total p plus 1 will be 10, and your beta estimated is, that is why first one is the constant, second one is we have taken that copper related, then silicon related, nickel related, phosphorus related, hardness related, then also your speed, feed, depth of cut and humidity, speed, feed, depth of cut and humidity. So, these many things will be there. So, I can say this is my beta 0 cap, this is beta 1 cap. So, like this 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So, this one will be your beta 9 cap. Okay. Now, what are the values we found out from our regression model? Our regression model we found out like this, that is 1.35, then 0.0086, 0.0133, 0133, minus 0.0088, minus 0.2, minus 2.39, then minus 0.0058, minus 0.0433, plus 0.084, plus 0.105, plus 0.00024. So, this is your beta value for the regression equation we found out. Okay. So, this is related to constant and all those things, fine. So, once you have estimated equation, that the fitted equation, that means we are now having y cap equal to x beta cap, having this is my beta cap. So, you are able to find out the error is y minus y cap. As you are able to find out the error now, you are also able to find out the SSE sum square errors. You are able to find out SSR, which is SST minus SSE. You know the degrees of freedom. So, you can go for finding out R square. R square is SSR by SST. Okay. And in this case our SSR is 0.60 and SST is 0.76, which is giving you 78.7% R square value. So, that means what I can say, in total 79% variability of backlash can be explained by the independent variable considered. Now, whether 78% or 79% is to be considered significant or not, considering the case where what we have taken data from the day to day operation, it is not that experimental data. So, there are a lot of variability involved. So, as a result, so we cannot expect that 95% R square value will be getting. So, I think it is almost 80%. So, it is considering the variability involved from material, from operation, from production, from service, many points of view. So, I think this is a reasonable model to consider. Okay. Once you consider get R square, then you also may be interested to know whether there is the effect of parameters to the number of observations. So, N and P, that relationships that you want to test. So, R A square, what you will do? R A square will be 1 minus SSE by degrees of freedom, that is N minus P minus 1, by SST by degree of freedom, that N minus 1. In this case, this one is 6.5%. Because our SSE is I think 0.76 minus 0.60, 0.16, and your N is 100, P plus 1 is 10. So, N minus P minus 1 is 90. So, 1 minus 0.16 by 90 by 0.76 by your N minus 1 is 99. This is giving you 76.5% variability of backlash explained. Getting me? Okay. Then so this is one. So R square is not bad. Now we will go for ANOVA table. Your case study must show this ANOVA. ANOVA table, we test two hypotheses, beta j equal to 0 for j equal to 1 to p, and all case, and h at least 1 beta j not equal to 0, that is the case. Then you calculate the ANOVA table. ANOVA table will be your source, then degree of freedom, SS, MS, then you test the F. Source is one is regression, second one is error, third one is your that total is divided like this. So, your degree of freedom is how much? There are p plus 1 10. So, it will be p, it will be 9 and total will be n minus 1 equal to 99. So, error will be that the difference between the two, this is 90. Our SS regression is 0.60, error 0.16 and 0.76. Then MS is SS by degree of freedom 0.60 by 9, this will be 0.067, then 0.16 by 90, this will be 0.002. So, your F value will be 0.067 by 0.002, this is a very high value 36.87, very high value. So, very high value means if this is the case, then it may be falling somewhere here. Okay. So, probability, if you calculate probability, it will show, software will show almost 000. So, that means the independent variables are actually contributing in explaining the variability, which is also obvious from the R square table. Okay. So, we are accepting the model from overall adequacy point of view. So, then we require to test the, what we require to test? We require to test the individual parameters, test of parameters. Test of parameters, and you all know what we say, that beta j cap minus expected value of beta j cap by standard error of beta j cap, this follows T n minus p minus 1 under H0 null hypothesis. So, under null hypothesis, expected value of beta j cap equal to beta j equal to 0. So, ultimately your T n minus p minus 1, what you are basically getting from this equation, that will be that to be compared with beta j cap by SE beta j cap. And how do you know SE beta j cap? This will be SE square x transpose x inverse, you have seen earlier. And now what is SE square? SE square is SSE by n minus p minus 1 degrees of freedom. So, you know everything. Now, see this slide. You see the slide, the constant copper silicon to all the predictors, then these are the values, beta values. This is the standard error. Standard error SE square into x transpose x inverse, that particular value, that corresponding, that with that matrix, the corresponding value you have to consider. So, you see here then t value is nothing but coefficient by standard error. If you see hardness, this coefficient is minus 0.005833 and your standard error of the coefficient is so low that the t value is becoming large, minus 2.20, which says that this influence is significant at 3% probability level of significance. So, we consider this is a significant contribution in terms of explaining the variability of backlash. Similarly, speed, you see, speed also this divided by this is 10.25, this is very large. So, the probability value is almost 000. We have used Minitab to find out this solution. Feed is not significant because the probability value is 34%, and you see although coefficient value is more than speed coefficient in terms of magnitude, but the standard error is high, much higher compared to speed standard error, and as a result what happens, t value becomes quite low and it makes it insignificant. Similarly, depth of cut is also very significant. Okay. So, then from this result we can say that yes, multiple regression is able to explain around 80% of variability of backlash, and the variables which are contributing the maximum or significantly contributing, we can say these are hardness, speed and depth of cut, correct. Now, you may be interested to know that what are the individual contribution to the overall sum square, individual variable contribution to overall sum square. You see, this is the basically table where which is also obtained through Minitab. Here what happened, you see that if your total sum square is 0.76 and you will find out the regression sum square is 0.60. So, if you add all those things, this will be 0.60, and if I see from the speed is contributing the maximum 0.509. So, divided by 0.60, it will be more than 90%, no, more than 80%. Then followed by nickel, followed by depth of cut, but although SS contribution nickel is more than hardness, but nickel is not significant, hardness is significant because of the variability of estimates for hardness is much lower than the variability of estimate for nickel. Getting me?
All the probability values with the black ink, there are I think non-significant.
Non-significant.
So, sir, is there any threshold value of probability that we can say that this?
Yes, that is 0.5. We say that 0.05, not 0.5. What do we say? That this is your T distribution. So, this is the mean value of beta under H0, beta j equal to 0. So, suppose your value comes here, the computed value, and this side is 0.025 and this side also 0.025. So, if your value falls here, then it is insignificant. So, usually we take 0.05. So, the p value what you are getting, if you find out any p value which is less than this, so p less than equal to this, then you blindly accept this, because this is significant with 5% error. Okay. Then what we require to do, you require to, once you estimate the, you accept the model, you estimated the parameters effect in terms of t test, and then you require to do the model adequacy test. Getting me? So, what are the model adequacy tests? Under model adequacy test, definitely what I have told earlier, that R square is definitely coming under model adequacy test, that basically talks about the whether model valid or not. Apart from R square or the analysis of variance, this and that one, that F test, then we require to test the residuals, whether residuals are basically following the assumptions of the regression model or not. So, you see this diagram here. You see, although we have seen in Y plot, probability plot for Y, we found out that some of the points are out of the straight line within the, from the confidence band, out of that band, but in the residual case it is very much close to the straight line, and I think all may be following within the band. If I draw a 95% confidence band, it will be coming like this. So, it simply indicates that that little bit departure has not affected much here. So, that errors are showing normal, and if you go for the fitted value versus residual, that means independent observations, it should be that there should not be any trend, there is no trend, and if I see the histogram also, it is almost normal. And if you see the autocorrelation point of view, residual versus observation order, I do not find any correlation, because there is no trend available. So, then what does it signify? It signifies that yes, the model is adequate from residual analysis point of view also, but if you see clearly, here is one point, here is one point, some points are little away from the general mass. So, these are other plot, this is other plot like residual versus individual variable plot. Can you remember, I told you that partial residual plot. This is in order to see that whether any of the, if there is nonlinearity, if any of the independent variables contributing to the nonlinearity or not. Okay. So, this one is SAS output, and here you see that residual versus copper nothing, silicon nothing, we are not getting anywhere any departure from that. Okay. And interestingly, what is happening here, this copper, silicon, nickel, they are not contributing on to also much in explaining the variability, and as a result here also you are not getting any trend. If there is any variable which contribute, then there will be a trend. So, here I think the speed is contributing. So, this line is little inclined, this line is little inclined, but not apparently visible that inclination. Okay. Then there are, apart from these 4 tests what I have shown you earlier, that your probability plot, fit versus residual, fit versus observation order versus residual, and your partial residual plot, there are certain other statistics to find out the leverage points. Can you remember leverage points? There are leverage point, there are outliers. So, we talk about outliers with respect to y, we talk about leverage point with respect to x. I think you can remember this. We are given one explanation here. Suppose this is the general mass, here is one point which, and this side is y, this side is x, this is outlier, because this is does not belong with the with the variability zone of y, but suppose some point is here, some point is here, this point is within y variability, but much away from x variability. This is your good outlier, good leverage, this is your bad leverage. We say good leverage because under good leverage there is no problem in the regression estimate beta cap. Bad average distort the line, that means the regression equations are distorted. So, these are the things. Okay. So, what we want then? We also require to find out the leverage points, other way in one words, including outliers, you can say influential observations. So, influential observations is very important to find out. Okay. So, there are many ways to find out influential observation. One is your standardized residuals, second one is your studentized residuals, third one is your trace residuals or deleted residuals, then there is your HII, that is the, you know, the hat matrix and diagonal elements, these are basically leverage points. Then there is Cook's distance, there is D fits, these are different different statisticians, they have identified different procedures to identify the your what I can say influential observations. What is your standardized residual? Your standardized residual is, suppose your residual is this one, this divided by MSE, this is your standardized residual. What is your studentized residual? Studentized residual says that this MSE may be affected by large observations or large residuals like outliers. So, then it should be normalized, that normalization is done here, like your studentized residual, if I say Ri, which is EI by some AC square into 1 minus HII. Okay. So, MAC is here AC square. So, we will write then square root of MAC here, correct, and then this one is. So, this is the leverage point, these values are subtracted from 1 and this is your studentized residuals. This value should not be, these all values should not be large value. Okay. And then there are deleted residuals. Deleted residuals means suppose you have I equal to 1 to n observations. So, ith observations you delete, then you model that, run the regression model, find out the residuals for the ith value. Okay. So, deleted residuals can be found out by this, then there is your HII, that leverage points values like this. So, the cutoff for HII is 2 into p plus 1 by n, getting me, 2 into p plus 1 by n. So, your HII value, if it is 2 p plus 1 by n, it is more than this, it is more than this is influential. Okay. Now, you can find out defeat, you can find out Cook distance. Now, if you go by Cook distance basically talk about di, which is Ri by p plus 1 into HII by 1 minus HII. This is your Cook distance, its cutoff value. So, if di value greater than 1, this is influential. Okay. So, what I say, I first say that HII greater than 2 p plus 1 by n, that is influential, di value following this if greater than 1, that is influential. Okay. So, there is defeats value also, DFITH, this defeats cutoff is, if this one is greater than root over p 2 into root p by plus 1 by n, that also denotes influential observations. So, these how these different student residuals measures are coming, what is the logic behind it? The logic is ultimately you will find out that similar like that residual, then normalized residual, then adjusted residuals and like this, but Cook distance and defeats they talk from the model prediction power point of view. Okay. So, there is very good discussion of all those things in Montgomery et al. Under model diagnostics, I think chapter 5 probably under model diagnostics. So, you see here what happened in this slide for the particular case our di value, defeats value, I said that defeats value 2 into root over p plus 1 by n, this defeats value, this 2 into root over p plus 1 by n means 10 by 100 I think, and this value 2 p plus 1 by n 100 values. So, ultimately if you see this is coming under 0.63, I will go to the earlier slide, it will be clear. This is 0.63 cutoff. So, if you put a absolute cutoff value of 0.63 and all the 100 observations residuals if you plot, what you are getting some observations, particularly this observations higher and here also they are crossing. Okay. There are some observations. So, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 observations are influential observations. Although they are not distorting much about the regression estimate, maybe because the departure may not be that high, but if that this value is very high large value, it will distort. So, what will be your action? Action will be, it is better to remove those observations. You go for one more time regression model after removing the leverage, bad leverage points. Okay. So, I told you there are 5 unusual observations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct. So, this also available in software. You ask Minitab, it will give you what are the observations which are influential to be considered. So, then you see, and what are the variables, that is another important issue, is that see what are the variables, so which are making the observations influential. This copper is from the input x point of view, copper is making almost all the things influential, and the first one is this is residual, this R denotes for large standardized residuals and X denote whose X value is large leverage. So, it is, so that means this 23 has these observations has influence in distorting the regression estimates, but residuals will not distort the estimates. So, that means X, that 23 observations should be removed, getting me. So, whenever you find problem in fitting regression model, definitely you have to see the unusual observations, and then if possible remove the unusual observations, and then again you rerun the model, and you require what? You require more number of observations, that is why. Okay. And when you find out that your regression coefficient R square value is very low, then no need of going to all those things, because it will not give you any information. So, R square is vital. So, if R square value is very low, that means either you have not taken the right kind of independent variables, or your data collection is faulty, or data or what will happen, basically the methodology you adopted in measuring the data, that is also not correct. So, there are many issues, so that to be taken into consideration. So, what in nutshell what I mean to say then, that this particular case study shows you how you will go for multiple linear regression if applicable for the problem you are considering. Okay. So, apart from these things, another issue is that I told you that autocorrelation, that Durbin-Watson statistics, here also we have used, it is 1.5. So, Durbin-Watson or DW statistics should be 2 for no correlation, but it is 1.5. So, slight correlation is there. So, 1 minus R is 1.5. Okay. So, it is negative, positive autocorrelation is there. Okay. Next issue is multicollinearity, you have to test it. Your things are fine, it is settled that you are happy with 80% variability, but whether there is multicollinearity, because if you go back to your regression, not regression, that is correlation matrix, you have seen that there are some of the variables in the independent side which are having a high significant correlation coefficient, particularly speed versus depth, there is high correlation. Okay, this is high, but not that high that it will distort your regression estimate that much, and that is also happened, and you have seen that much disturbance you have not faced, apart from your R square value is almost 0.8, but R square cannot be improved unless you go for other kind of variables which are basically contributing here, because this type of process is basically operates under many variables, operators condition, operators expertise, operators skill, those are not considered. So, how can we think that we will be getting that 90% or 95% of variability explained? It is not possible. So, now multicollinearity problem is there or not? So, 1.90 all those things, I think, can you remember the multicollinearity number? Can you remember that VIF, variance inflation factor? This is 1 by 1 minus Rj square. Remember? So, Rj means what happened? We have taken this Xj as dependent variable and all other independent variables which contributing this, then you have found out the Rj square. Now, if your Rj square is 0, then VIF will be 1. If your Rj square is 1, then VIF will be infinite, very large VIF. Now, in this case your VIF or none of the VIF values are large. So, they are not showing any multicollinearity problem. So, that means even though 1 or 2 things are like this, but no multicollinearity problem is there. Getting me? So, then what is your conclusion about the process? That the process variables are able to explain, including the input material, but it is able to explain, and we have found out that 2 variables emerge as significant, 3 variables, but 2 that is speed and depth of cut, these are process variables where you have control. Hardness cannot be controlled because it will be controlled by the centrifugal casting shop, not here. So, we have control, you can improve the backlash. Okay. This is one step, but it requires further the optimization, that what will be the setting points, process setting points, that statistical optimization using response surface methodology can be found out. Response surface methodology. Okay, so we will not discuss this. In other words, we have considered only linear regression, that may be non-linearity, there may be quadratic effects, there may be interaction effects, we have not considered, but those things also require to be considered for a full model, a different kind of model. Okay. Thank you very much.